You booked the balcony, maybe you splurged, the big suite, the one with the living room and the deep tub. On a mega cruise ship, that can run you $10,000 to $15,000 for the week. There's one large private cabin on board that no passenger can book at any price. Someone lives in it for 4 months at a stretch, and they didn't pay a cent. It's the captain's. It sits inside the restricted officer area beside the bridge, behind a door most of the crew will never walk through without knocking first. Let me take you inside and show you why the room everyone assumes is a reward is really the one nobody should envy. Here's what most people picture: a slightly bigger version of a crew bunk. A cot, a locker, a metal wall? Not even close. At first glance, it looks like the captain's been handed a penthouse, but almost every feature, from where it sits to the private office inside it, exists for one reason: a bedroom that might have to become a command center in seconds. Stay to the end and you'll see the part nobody expects, why the most coveted cabin on the ship is also the one nobody should envy. And you'll never look up at that bridge the same way again. So start with where it sits. The crew lives stacked in decks, and the ship is ranked from the bottom up. The higher you sleep, the higher you rank. The captain sits near the top of the cruise world, right below the bridge. And that's not about the view, it's about seconds. There's a short private stair, sometimes just a few steps, connecting the cabin straight to the bridge, not down a public hallway, not past other cabins. Straight up. So when visibility collapses, or traffic closes in, or something crosses a limit written in the captain's own night orders, the officer on watch is already responding, and within seconds, the captain can step through that private door and take command in whatever they were sleeping in. The best room isn't a reward, it's a response time. Now let's go inside, open the door, and the first surprise is that it isn't a bedroom, it's a living room. A sofa, a coffee table, a real desk. On a big cruise ship, the captain's quarters are a genuine suite, a separate bedroom, a private bathroom, a sitting area, large windows, and on some ships, even a private balcony. Daylight, the kind of space you paid 4 figures for 1 week, except this one is theirs for the entire contract. Then you start noticing the details that give it away. The furniture is bolted to the floor. The coffee table has a raised lip around the edge, that's called a fiddle rail, and it's there so your mug doesn't take a flight across the room when the ship leans. Every drawer has a latch. Every cabinet has a catch. Nothing just sits on a surface. Now, your cruise ship has stabilizers, fins out under the waterline that cut the roll down to almost nothing on a normal day. I've covered how those work, but almost nothing isn't nothing. And everything in that cabin is built for the day the fins aren't enough. And then there's the desk. This is the part that kills the romantic image of the sea captain. A cruise captain is running a small city, 6,000 passengers, 2,000 crew, customs and immigration paperwork for every country you stop in, safety inspections, incident reports, crew records, and the head office emailing to ask why fuel burn was up 2% last leg. Captains will tell you straight out they spend more hours on documents than they do navigating. The bridge team keeps the watch. The captain commands the whole operation, and a surprising amount of commanding a modern ship turns out to be paperwork. By the bed, on the wall, there's a telephone. That phone is the most important object in the cabin. Every night before they sleep, the captain writes what are called night orders, a written instruction to the officer on watch. The course, the traffic, the weather, and exactly what conditions they must be woken for. The last line, in some form, always reads, "If in doubt, call me." So that room isn't a suite with a desk in it. It's a command post with a bed in it. The captain of a cruise ship is never really off duty. So picture this. It's 2 in the morning and the captain is asleep. Up on the bridge, the officer on watch is tracking a storm that's building faster than the forecast said, or a passenger 3 decks down has just collapsed and the nearest port is hours away. Either way, it crosses a line written into those night orders. So the officer picks up the phone. 30 seconds later, the captain is standing on the bridge, and now it's their call. Divert the ship and add a day to 6,000 people's vacation? Turn into the weather or take the long way around it? Run for the nearest port or call for a helicopter that can only reach so far out to sea? Nobody else on board can make that decision. That short private stair, the one that looks like a status symbol, exists for this exact moment. Not for the view, for the 2 in the morning phone call. And here's the part that makes people a little nervous. The person who sleeps in that room is the final legal authority on the entire floating city. They can confine a passenger, divert the ship, overrule anyone aboard, and they are personally responsible for every single life on it. 6,000 guests, 2,000 crew. If something goes badly wrong at 3 in the morning, there is no one above them to call. The buck doesn't stop at some desk back on shore, it stops on that pillow. So it's the most coveted cabin on the ship. Now here's the catch, it's also the loneliest, but not in the way you'd think. The captain might dine with the officers, greet passengers at dinner, and know hundreds of crew by name. Some have family aboard for a stretch of the contract. The isolation isn't about company, it's about the decision. When a port closes, when a passenger has to be confined for safety, when the ship has to divert in the middle of the night, other people bring information. Advice can be shared. Responsibility cannot. One person makes the final call and lives with it. That's the solitude built into that cabin. Not that the captain is always alone, but that some decisions can't be handed to anyone else. 4 months, sometimes 6, at the top of a ship packed with thousands of people having the best week of their year, and they're the one person aboard who can never fully switch off. But something changed almost overnight. For most of history, going to sea meant disappearing. A satellite call was billed by the minute, so you rationed it, a few minutes on a birthday, an email that took 10 minutes to send. Then, in just the last few years, low-orbit satellite internet reached the fleet. Now a captain can read their kids a bedtime story over video from the middle of the Atlantic. Ask senior captains about it, and many will tell you it's one of the biggest quality-of-life changes they've seen at sea in their whole careers. The loneliest room on the ship stopped being quite so lonely. So the next time you're up on deck and you glance at that row of dark glass on the bridge, remember what's right behind it. Not a penthouse. A workstation with a bed, the best view on the ship, and the one person aboard carrying all of it while you sleep. And I'll be honest with you, it might not even be the most expensive room on board. The owner's suite 3 decks down could cost more. But it's the only one that comes with the whole ocean and the final word. So here's my question. Would you take it? 4 months in command, the one cabin no passenger can book, and every final decision resting on you. Yes or no, tell me in the comments. If this changed the way you look at that bridge, hit like and subscribe. I'm Larry, and I'll see you on the next one.